right, hello and welcome back. This is Riley Risto with Latter-day Peace Studies, and I'm here with my several co-hosts today to give you an update on where we're at with Latter-day Peace Studies and where we're going for 2024. So, on the line here, we've got Daniel Meehan. Dan, say hi.
Hi.
We've got Chris. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Chris. And then we've got Marianne Meehan, Dan's wife. Marianne, say hello.
Hi.
And, of course, Ben Peterson, current host, soon to be past host of Latter-day Peace Studies, presents Come Follow Me. Hello, Ben.
Hi, Riley.
So we broke the news, guys. We're making some changes in 2024. Ben, Chris, you guys want to talk a little bit about what you're doing there with Latter-day Peace Studies presents Come Follow Me?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about that. So a little earlier in the year, I expressed to Christopher that I thought some other things were going to need to start taking priority for me. And part of that, not the whole thing, was that I accepted a calling as Elders Quorum President in my ward. And so there's some commitments there, and then there were other commitments. And so as Christopher and I talked, I decided it'd be best for me to stop hosting or co-hosting the Come Follow Me podcast. So as we decided that we really wanted to finish out the year, finish out the New Testament, and it sure has been quite a ride, especially starting with the Old Testament and then getting into the New Testament with Christopher. There have been just so many things that I have learned about the Bible that I never knew, right? So
Same here, Ben.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to you guys this past year on the New Testament, that being my favorite section of Scripture. And so it's been great for me to learn from you guys and appreciate the work you did there.
It's been a pleasure.
So you guys basically went through the whole cycle. You did the standard works, and I know, Christopher, you came on later, but between you and Shiloh and Ben, you guys did the standard works. And so then it begs the question, what's next for Latter-day Peace Studies? Are we just going to continually roll out or just end the series there with the standard works that you've already recorded on? And we as a group decided that we wanted to keep on recording, but from different perspectives. And so that's where Dan Meehan and Marianne Meehan come into play. They've decided to take over this recording for Latter-day Peace Studies presents Come Follow Me. So, guys, welcome to the team. I know we've had you on shows before, Dan, but formally, welcome to the Latter-day Peace Studies team.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, and also thank you, Marianne, for joining me.
Of course.
Yes, appreciate you. So, you guys, what was let's just ask the question, what was the impetus behind you guys wanting to do this, other than being asked, but why does this interest you?
Well, Dan, you want me to take that one?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I have had connections with Latter-day Peace Studies really since its inception. I am actually Ben's sister.
Ben's sister?
Dan is my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
had no idea you guys were family.
If we were doing video, we would have just
awesome.
seen Riley's head explode.
Oh, it just did. Yeah, I had no idea. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
We can keep all this in the recording.
Yeah,
that's fine. Keep it now.
That'd be great.
I don't feel stupid.
But yeah, I'm Ben's sister, and so I was a part of the Latter-day Peace Studies sort of creation, or I guess I can't claim to be part of the creation, but I was there from the beginning when Shiloh and Ben and some of the other founders were talking about ideas and kind of trying to figure out the direction that they wanted to go. And I was a part of the BYU Freedom Society back when Shiloh was president, back in my college days. And Dan has always also been interested in a lot of those same ideas. And so he just fit right in with my family. And when earlier this year, Ben had hinted or sort of expressed that they might, want to make changes in the future. Also that he had already done 4 full years of the podcast, the Come Follow Me podcast, right, and that he might want to make a change. I started thinking about kind of our situation and that it's really enjoyable actually to talk about the scriptures with my husband. and that we have a lot of really great discussions. And I felt like it could provide a really good model for having these discussions with other people. And just thought maybe we'd invite a wider audience to be a part of our brilliant discussions. So,
Well, as many of you guys probably have experienced as teachers in church or wherever, you learn the most from preparing to teach or talk about a subject. And so, especially on a podcast where what you say it's permanent, it's on the internet, for heck's sake.
exactly.
You might as well do your research, get it right, so that something you're putting out there in perpetuity feels like it represents you guys accurately in your viewpoints. So it's a great learning experience, right?
Absolutely. Dan, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I will say that I'm very excited for this opportunity, and obviously, I think Ben and Christopher have set a very high sort of standard for the podcasts, and so we will attempt to be living up to that. I've been really appreciating the sort of extra time that I've been able to put into, there's a lot of sort of extra books that we've been reading, and hopefully the work and effort that we put into preparing pays off for these episodes.
Well, we know it will. And just to reiterate too, I mean, we did this whole cycle once. We've been through all 4 of the standard works. So it might bear asking for you guys, the Mehans, what kind of approach are you going to take to recording in these coming years on the scriptures that would maybe be a little different than Ben and Shiloh or Ben and Chris? They took a very, I think, scholarly approach to things, and I'm sure you will obviously do a lot of research too, but is there a particular approach or hermeneutic you're going to take to the scriptures as you record on these?
Well, obviously, we will still be taking the cruciform hermeneutic, the nonviolent reading of the scriptures, and interpreting everything through the lens of Jesus Christ's life and his Sermon on the Mount. But as far as our particular backgrounds that we bring to the project, my background is in English literature. And so I have always been very interested in reading and in particularly the narrative of a book. And if there is any book of scripture that has a very well composed narrative, it is the Book of Mormon. And I am intensely interested in how that form comes together and what that says about the whole. I'm also very interested in a literary sense, what you would call the characters, but what we believe to be real people, and how their individual experiences really contribute to the message of the Book of Mormon.
Dan, did you have anything to add there?
Well, my educational background's in geology, so there's actually not a ton. I mean, there are things that I could delve into geology for the Book of Mormon, but I don't think that will occupy most of our discussion. I think for me, what I'm really looking forward to is actually bringing in some of the insights from the recent Grant Hardy Oxford publication of the annotated Book of Mormon. I've been reading that in preparation, and I think that the way that he structures some of the actual text of the Book of Mormon, I think is really insightful, and I'm just really looking forward to talking with my wife about it.
As are we. Great. Well, Chris and Ben, let's jump over to you guys. Over the last, between 1.5 and 4 years that you guys have been recording on this, what have you guys taken away from the scriptures that has been insightful and maybe unique?
After you, Ben.
Sure. Well, we have said that we did the 4-year cycle. I will put a little caveat on that. Shiloh and I did begin in May of 2020. Right after, right as COVID was starting and bringing full swing. And so we started at the beginning or at the very end, the last chapter of Mosiah. So there is a good part of the Book of Mormon that we haven't covered explicitly in our Come Follow Me episodes yet. And so now we would often allude back to things in 1st and 2nd Nephi and some of the other books at times. But moving into the Book of Mormon that way, there was a lot of things that I learned just about podcasting itself and how I was to approach the scriptures with the hermeneutic that we were bringing to it, and then developing my understanding of how that applied to it. the Book of Mormon and then also the Doctrine and Covenants to a certain degree really required or called for, I think, a different approach than what ended up happening when we got to the Old and New Testament. And a lot of that is just due to the nature of the scripture. But I would say that at least as much of that is due to the fact that when Christopher came on and started podcasting with me, Christopher took a much more academic approach to a lot of the things, which really opened up another view and ability to analyze the text in a way that we don't have necessarily access to, particularly with the Book of Mormon, and to some extent the Doctrine and Covenants as well, right? The scholarship that surrounds Old and New Testament, the Bible, is of a much more prolific and older and deeper nature than what we find, right, with the Book of Mormon. And then again, like the Doctrine and Covenants. Now, some scholarship and stuff is happening with the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants, particularly the Doctrine and Covenants from a historical point of view, but it's just not the same thing. And so some of what I took away from particularly these last couple of years was just a better understanding of what scholarship means when it comes to Scripture. And so being able to bring that perspective to Scripture, but then also to religion in general, was a very new, unsettling, but also rewarding experience for me, I guess you could say. And I definitely credit Christopher with pushing us in that direction.
Chris, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just say that from my viewpoint, from my own personal experience, that is, well, I learned a lot about reading, right? I thought I was a good reader. I have a lot of experience as a reader, as a philosopher, as a scholar, as an academic. And yet the Bible taught me over and over that I wasn't as good a reader as I thought I was. And it continues to teach me that. And I appreciate that. I really do value that. I learned a lot about reading. I learned a lot about myself. And I learned a lot about Scripture and religion in general. And I learned a lot about the Old Testament in particular. Like most Latter-day Saints, I did not have a solid grounding in the Old Testament until I went through it with Ben on this podcast. And that has been invaluable to me in approaching the New Testament. It will be in approaching the Book of Mormon. And it has even enriched my experience as a reader in general when it comes to literature, especially as I've branched out of nonfiction into fiction again for the first time since I was a boy.
Fantastic. Well, guys, we're looking forward to that. That's going to be fun to get new perspective on the Book of Mormon and the other standard works as you go through those, Dan and Mary Ann. So we appreciate you guys being willing to do that and accepting that assignment to help us out here at Latter-day Peace Studies. And Ben and Chris, thanks so much for the work you put into Latter-day Peace Studies Presents Come Follow Me. And so along with that, we have our sister podcast that you all know is Latter-day Contemplation. And Chris and I have hosted that for a few years now. It was founded, same as Latter-day Peace Studies Presents Come Follow Me, by Shiloh. And he and I started from episode 1 together. And after about 15 or so episodes, Shiloh decided that he was going to move into academia, pursue a doctorate in religious studies. And so he turned over his half of that show hosting to Christopher Hurtado. And I have to say, Chris, it's been a real pleasure recording with you, getting to know you personally, and now you're a good friend, and it's been a great experience. So thank you for all your insight and participating with me in that, in recording our journey of contemplation together.
Thank you, Riley. I have to say it has been a real pleasure getting to know you too, Riley, and I'm glad to call you my friend. And I've gotten to know Ben a lot better since podcasting together, even though I've known him for years, a lot better since podcasting together. It has been a pleasure for me. I've learned so much about contemplation, about mysticism, from the Christian tradition, from other traditions, from you, Riley, from our guests. And
we had some great guests, didn't we?
We really have had some great guests. Yeah, and I look forward to where you're going to go with it next. And, you know, I also feel like I've learned a lot, again, about myself in doing this and about podcasting. I'm going to be bringing that experience to what I'll be podcasting and teaching. You know, continue to work with the great books and to teach the great books and podcasts around great books, and to listen to you and your co-host or whatever you're doing on your own, and to Dan and Marianne. And thank you all for having me on the podcast. It's been just a great experience. It really has.
And just to clarify as well, Christopher and Ben both are directors of Latter-day Peace Studies, and they're going nowhere. You guys are still going to be actively involved in the org and help us in our pursuit of teaching about peace personally and interpersonally through our various media channels, whether it be the podcast or our social media pages, and of course are going to retain a voice in the organization. So thanks for sticking around.
My pleasure.
Yes, love being part of it, and yeah, we're not going anywhere. So,
well, for now, one more change that we're putting together is that I'm stepping away from Latter-day Contemplation in the same model that we were running it before. Christopher has decided, obviously, to pursue some things on the outside as well, and so I didn't really want to do a solo show on contemplation because that's really there's such a dialectic there in working through the various modes of contemplation and sharing experiences. I needed a partner in that podcast, and so I felt it best for now to leave that where it is. We've got about 5 or 6 more episodes still to come that have been backlogged, waiting some editing. So we will release those in the next few weeks here, and then I think we'll call it good for about, what were we, Christopher, 88 or 89 episodes, something like that?
I don't remember the number of episodes. It has been a few years, though, and it's been a wild ride. It's been great.
It has. And interestingly, the very end, I think it was maybe the second to last episode we recorded, Christopher, was with our good friend, Dr. Max Sterling, who is a Girardian scholar, Girardian relating to Rene Girard. And that direction kind of set me off. I took the Girardian theory, and it has been something that has fascinated me greatly in terms of its revelatory ability to read the scriptures in a new way, really like Marianne does, in a literary way, and because he began as a literary critic. And so I've really run with Rene Girard. I have a Facebook page called Mormon Mimetic Musings. Mimeticism is relating to the Girardian theory of imitation. And so I've got that Facebook page going, which really is technically kind of part of Latter-day Peace Studies anyway. I mean, we play off each other so much. But in any case, that's become a real fascination for me since I discovered that theory about a year ago and was introduced to it, and have since studied great volumes of books on the topic. I've read all of Rene Girard's works, something like 15 or 20 of his books, and along with a lot of other Girardians in that space that have written books. And so I feel now I have a very good grasp of the theory, and I think it dovetails so nicely with a nonviolent bent that we all share. And so this is a direction that I would like to take my next project, which is I'm going to do a Girardian podcast. I don't know how often I'll record. Could be weekly, it could be monthly, but in any case, I'm going to start putting out Girardian content. And of course, from the perspective of someone who is a practicing Latter-day Saint, I think especially insights into the Book of Mormon will be maybe really interesting for people who are either unfamiliar with Girard or only mildly familiar with Rene Girard. So that's the direction that I'm going, guys.
All right. I should also mention that our brief podcast, I don't remember how many episodes I recorded with David Peck, Dr. David Peck, my Sufi master, Sufi al-Hajj Dawood. We recorded Latter-day Contemplation Presents Come Follow Me for a few episodes, and that went really well. And Dr. Peck had to, again, to step aside and do other things.
Yeah, those were great episodes, and I think they were a perfect companion to Latter-day Contemplation. So I actually think I may just retain the brand, if it's okay with you guys, and podcast under Latter-day Contemplation Presents Rene Girard or something, right?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, I'm really excited for this next chapter. I know you are too. For the listener, we're not going anywhere, and if you want to be involved with Latter-day Peace Studies, please reach out to one of us, Ben Peterson, Christopher Hurtado, or myself, Riley Risto. One of us will get back in touch with you, but we currently need help with full-time editing And by full-time, we mean we just need someone that would work on one or the other of these programs. But this is a very, I would say, light work job, right? Ben, what do you think? A few hours a week, if that?
Yeah, probably a few hours a week. It really depends on the length of the episode, right?
Yeah.
It can depend a little bit on how fast the person picks it up, but they can be taught to edit, and it's not a very steep learning curve. So
if anyone has experience or has no experience in editing, this can be taught. It's not difficult. And within a few days, you'll be offering us a great service and helping us to edit these podcasts so we can get our content out regularly and maybe a little less sporadically than we've done the last couple of years, at least with Latter-day Contemplation. So that would be great help. We also are always in need of social media help. We've got a couple great ladies that are helping us out right now with that. But if you want to produce content for us, we'd love to have you. If you'd like to enhance the organization in any other way, please reach out to us. We love volunteers. We're an all-volunteer organization, and we are actually a 501c3 nonprofit organization, so we accept donations through that as well. But those will cover only our overhead expenses. All of our people are volunteers. So if you'd like to help us in any way, please reach out to one of us. Otherwise, guys, that's all we've got for now. This was just a what's next chapter or episode that we wanted to put out for your benefit to let you know where we're going. So we appreciate your support. Please come back, listen to the upcoming episodes, and we look forward to your feedback and really appreciate you guys. Guys, anything you want to say to close?
thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Looking forward to a great 2024 with y'all.
All right. Well, with that, this has been Latter-day Peace Studies, and we really appreciate you guys. Have a great year. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year.